I think it's fair to say that Kathleen Kennedy has been somewhat a divisive head of Lucasfilm. Would you say?
Yes, I would.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Kathleen Kennedy is, let's not, pull, like, she's one of the best movie producers that's ever lived. Steven Spielberg, one of the best filmmakers of all time, has said that she is one of the best producers ever, that he couldn't be able to make the movies he made without her, and the way that she was able to kind of really go to bat for him whenever studios and people did not want to give him what he needed for his vision. She was always there. She was always working. She's also the partner of Frank Marshall, who is also an amazing producer, and they're kind of a powerhouse in Hollywood. George Lucas handpicked her to run Lucasfilm back when he sold it to Disney, and with all the amazing things I just said about her and her career and how awesome she is, unfortunately, just wasn't really the right match for Lucasfilm. And now, don't get me wrong, numbers-wise, she's made a $2 billion film. She's made the highest-grossing film domestically in history, and that probably will never be broken. She's made 2 other billion-dollar films other than the $2 billion film. Actually, 3, because Rogue One, I think, made $1 billion as well. So, and she has hit shows like The Mandalorian, which was a huge hit, especially its first 2 seasons. So she's done some great stuff in terms of numbers with the brand, and I've liked most of the projects that have come out. There were some that I didn't particularly enjoy. I think Andor is the best thing that Star Wars has done since the original trilogy, which you have to thank her a little bit for as well. But for the most part, she also oversaw the first flop in Star Wars history with Solo. She also oversaw just a lot of lackluster or mediocre projects on TV, and was just kind of very moving the franchise in a directionless way to kind of have projects happen at random. And it really kind of diluted the Star Wars brand to where Star Wars used to be this event, like, especially because you had to wait every 10 years for a new trilogy. And it like, people have small memories, but dude, I remember 2014, 2015, and how fucking stoked you couldn't go anywhere without someone bringing up like, bruh, Star Wars is coming out, like, it's back, we're back, and it just being like a really big deal. And unfortunately, the direction that it's taken has, it's hurt it. And even someone who's a big fan of Kathleen Kennedy like myself would say, like, she was not a good fit as the lead of Lucasfilm, and she probably honestly should have stepped away a long time ago. But it's official. It looks like she's going to be stepping down from Lucasfilm this year. Now, initial reports had mentioned that she was just going to straight up retire, but an article came out later kind of debunking that. It was in THR and the trades, I believe. I believe the link we have for it is to Hollywood Reporter. Also Indiana Jones, right? She oversaw Indiana Jones 5, which is also a flop for her. There's no word on a replacement yet, but if you go into the article, and I think there's one on Deadline as well where she does an interview, she is quoted as saying, because she dispelled the retirement rumor, because she did say that she's going to probably step down from Lucasfilm before the end of the year, which is what the thing is, before the end of the year. But she's also quoted saying, "I will die making movies," which is such a baller thing to say. And I liked that quote a lot. But as someone who's a massive fan of Star Wars and someone who's a massive fan of her, it just wasn't meshing. It just couldn't come together. It's kind of like you can take a great... I'm about to do a sports analogy, which I never fucking do. But sometimes you can take a great coach with a great team, and for whatever reason, they're just not... They just don't gel. And that's kind of what happened here. And I think that her going back to just being a producer is going to be really good for her. She's going to get a lot more satisfaction out of it. She wasn't really meant to be a studio executive. But... well, now, does this mean Star Wars is going to be great all of a sudden? Well, that completely fucking depends on her replacement. There are a lot of people who are suggesting, like Dave Filoni. As someone who's kind of grown to slowly appreciate Dave Filoni's work a little bit more and more, I think this would be a horrible idea. I think you should not do that. It would just kind of take Star Wars into this very niche corner that only a small section of the fandom was a huge fan of, and it would kind of alienate more fans than it would create, in my opinion. I do think he's slowly becoming a better live-action director, which is interesting, but bad idea. I personally think you should get someone who has executive experience or someone who is just about to be promoted to that executive level, and this is a big promotion they could take from whatever company. Like, honestly, I would love to learn that the new person running Lucasfilm is someone that I've never fucking heard of. That's what I would love to see. And just have it be somebody who's not going to be tied to any particular type of story within Star Wars, and just kind of have a new bold direction for it to take. Now, there's been some rumors that Kevin Feige might take over Lucasfilm and leave Marvel once he's done, whenever that is. It's a lateral move. You know, like he'd be doing the same thing he does for Marvel, but just for another company. I don't see him doing it. I know he's a big Star Wars fan, and at one point he was going to produce a Star Wars movie, but I just don't see him taking the job. I think he would want to get promoted and do something higher than what he's doing now. Personally, maybe I'm wrong. Watch tomorrow, he's announced. But speaking of him making a Star Wars movie, I think it leads to one of the biggest failures of her run is that there were so many canceled Star Wars projects, so many projects that could not get past anything, and it was mostly because her and Lucasfilm, not just her, but Lucasfilm and the directors could not get on the same page, or they kind of lied to each other and said they were on the same page and then realized once it was too late, like, oh, we're actually not on the same page. Like Phil and Lord and Miller on Solo, the Josh Trank Boba Fett movie that never happened, the Taika Waititi Star Wars movie that never happened, the Kevin Feige Star Wars movie that never happened. I could go on and on. There's so much to say in regard to that. But Nick, I just fucking rambled for a hot minute there. But I kind of want to get your thoughts on this. You know, legacy person, not a very legacy run with Star Wars. What are your kind of overall thoughts on her stepping down? And, what, direction do you think Star Wars should take from here?
I'm not sure. Well, because it's sort of a thing, right? We're talking about Lucasfilm, which also does include Indiana Jones. Now,
Yes.
I don't think there's any immediate plans for the Indiana Jones franchise, but I think it would be off to have someone like, I'm sure Dave Filoni does have a love and admiration for the Indiana Jones franchise, but his blood, sweat, and tears is Star Wars. So I think it would be almost counterintuitive to have someone who's that invested also then being in charge of Indiana Jones, especially someone who maybe is not at that studio head executive level. Now, I think that it would be more beneficial, right, is to have a studio executive, a studio head who knows how to get movies made, who knows how to do this, right? And then you branch it out, right? So you go, okay, Dave Filoni, you now have creative control over Star Wars. But like I still get the final say in producing. I'm still we're in this together, but you can shepherd Star Wars, but I have to focus on Lucasfilm and the greater strategy of everything as a whole. I could see being more beneficial.
Kind of like a Gunn
But no,
Safran
I agree.
situation.
I think I'm sorry.
Kind of like a James Gunn, Peter Safran situation.
Yeah, exactly. But not even that. Like, well, yeah, because I guess is Peter Safran still like Warner Brothers?
No, he's DC. He's the co-head of DC with James Gunn.
Like, I mean, like Lucasfilm, right? Have a head of Lucasfilm and then have a head of a Star Wars division.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like the Kathleen, like Dave Filoni would be directly under Kathleen Kennedy, but he's shepherding Star Wars and she's handling Lucasfilm.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Right.
having that trust, right? Your second in command, if you will. Because I think that there's other ways to expand all these franchises. And I don't know if someone who's in that Star Wars universe would be able to take that, but I think, she's canceled a lot more movies than she's had made in the Star Wars universe.
That's true.
And the downside to it is it looks bad optics wise on the outside, but what if these movies were just shit and not developing, so maybe behind the scenes, yeah, it was a great call. And to my understanding is I don't think people have had a bad thing to say about her, like in terms of working with her, right?
Not that we're aware of, no. Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I think her biggest fumble, personally, as a Star Wars person, is just not giving Bryce Dallas Howard a movie to do whatever the fuck she wants with. That's the biggest crime she's committed, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Ron Howard coming in to finish off Solo was the best thing for the Star Wars franchise because it gave us Bryce Dallas Howard.
Listen, long term, you gotta think ahead. You gotta think ahead.
Yep,
you do. Absolutely.
You do.
Yeah, but guys,
we'll see who she takes in.
Oh, go ahead. I'll let you get a new thought in.
Who they get to replace. I'd say, just let's see who they get in and who they decide to bring in. I would not be shocked if it's someone outside that comes in and is just like, you are now in charge.
Yeah, no, that's what I hope they do. But guys, what do you think about Kathleen Kennedy leaving Lucasfilm? Not going to retire. She's going to die making movies. But what do you think about her leaving Lucasfilm? Let us know in the comments as we move on to our next story.